There's a certain rhythm to the way the city breathes outside my window, a relentless pulse of noise and motion that seeps through the glass, no matter how tightly it's sealed. I'm Lara, 33, perched on the edge of a life that looks perfect from the outside, here in this sleek, modern apartment building that towers over the urban sprawl. My home is on the 14th floor, a polished box of chrome and glass, surrounded by a revolving cast of strangers who come and go like shadows. This place is a transient hive. Tenants shuffle in and out so quickly I barely register their faces before they're replaced. A young couple with a dog one month, a solitary artist with paint-splattered jeans, the next I don't even try to keep up anymore. The hallways here are sterile, all white walls and polished tile, echoing with the hollow sound of my own footsteps when I venture out. The elevator hums like a tired machine, its doors sliding open with a soft ding that feels like a sigh. I pass neighbors in these fleeting moments, offering a quick nod or a mumbled, "Hey," that never quite blooms into anything more. There's an unspoken agreement here. We share space, not stories. Back in my apartment, everything is meticulously arranged. Mark's doing, mostly. My husband, 35 and an accountant, has a knack for order, for turning our space into a showroom of muted grays and sharp lines. He's often gone, buried under spreadsheets and deadlines, leaving me to wander these rooms alone, tracing the edges of a life that feels just a little too still. I can't put my finger on it. Not yet. But there's a restlessness in me, a quiet itch beneath the surface of my days that I don't know how to scratch. A few weeks ago, though, something shifted. Someone new moved in directly above us on the 15th floor. Her name is Alina. I caught it from a delivery guy calling up to her apartment. I haven't met her, not really, but I'm aware of her in ways I can't quite explain. Her footsteps tap through the thin ceiling at odd hours, a staccato rhythm that cuts through the silence of my evenings. Sometimes I hear the bright melodic spill of her laughter, sharp and warm, filtering down through the walls or catching me off guard in the hallway as I step out. It's a sound that lingers, like it's trying to tell me something I don't yet understand. And then there's the scent. Her perfume, I think. It's floral, with a warm undercurrent, like jasmine dipped in honey. I notice it in the elevator most often, a faint trace that hangs in the air after she's gone, pulling my attention in a way that feels both unfamiliar and insistent. I don't know why I'm so attuned to these details. The sound of her steps, the echo of her laugh, the ghost of her scent, they've started to weave themselves into the fabric of my routine, breaking up the monotony in a way that I can't quite ignore. My days, otherwise, follow a predictable pattern, one I've settled into over the 7 years Mark and I have been married. Mornings start with me alone at the kitchen counter, cradling a mug of black coffee while the city wakes up below. The steam curls upward, and I stare out the window, watching the gray dawn turn gold as Mark rushes through his routine. He's always in a hurry, tie half knotted, briefcase in hand, muttering about meetings and audits as he pecks me on the cheek and heads out the door. He's kind, always has been. But there's a distance there now. A gap that's grown wider with each late night at the office. I used to wait up for him, eager to hear about his day. But these days, I just sip my coffee and let the silence settle around me. By midday, I'm at my desk, hunched over my laptop, piecing together freelance graphic design projects. Logos, branding, the occasional website mock-up. Work that keeps my hands busy and my mind just occupied enough to avoid wandering too far. The apartment is quiet, save for the hum of the fridge or the distant honk of traffic filtering up from the street. I lose myself in the lines and colors on my screen, but there's always this undercurrent of waiting, like I'm holding my breath for something I can't name. Evenings are the hardest. Mark comes home late, often after I've already eaten dinner alone, his shoulders slumped from the weight of his day. He offers a tired smile, maybe a few words about a difficult client, But then he's off to bed, leaving me to sit on the couch with a book I don't really read, staring at the ceiling as if it holds answers I can't find. That ceiling, though, it's become more than just a barrier between floors since Alina moved in. I'd been curious about her, piecing together fragments of her presence, until the day we finally met. It was a clumsy moment down in the building's lobby. I was wrestling with a heavy package, some art supplies I'd ordered for a project, when I heard a voice behind me, bright and steady. "Need a hand with that?" I turned, and there she was, Alina. Her dark, wavy hair fell just past her shoulders, framing a face that seemed to glow with an easy warmth. Her brown eyes caught mine, sharp and kind, and her smile. It was confident, effortless, like she'd known me for years. I stammered a thanks as she lifted the other end of the box, her movements smooth and assured. She introduced herself as a freelance photographer, new to the city, just settling into the apartment above mine. There was something about her presence, a quiet energy that made the air feel lighter, and I found myself smiling back without even thinking about it. Over the next few days, Alina started popping by for the smallest reasons. First, it was to borrow a screwdriver to fix a loose shelf in her apartment, and I handed it over with a nervous laugh, feeling oddly flustered by how close she stood. Since that first visit, her knocks on my door have become more frequent, each excuse thinner than the last. One day, she's asking for a cup of sugar, even though I'm pretty sure she doesn't bake. The next, she's holding her phone out, insisting I see a photo she took of the city skyline at dusk, her eyes bright with excitement as she leans in to point out the details. I nod and smile, but my focus keeps slipping. I'm noticing things I shouldn't, things I can't seem to stop myself from seeing. The way her neck curves so delicately when she tilts her head to laugh, the purposeful grace in her hands as she gestures, fingers tracing invisible lines in the air. And that gaze of hers, there's an intensity in it when she looks at me, like she's searching for something. And it pins me in place, my chest tightening in a way I don't fully understand. I've tried to push these thoughts away, to chalk them up to boredom or loneliness, but they keep creeping back, stronger each time. And here's the thing I can barely admit to myself, let alone say out loud. I'm starting to feel something for Alina. Something I haven't felt in years, something I never thought I'd feel for a woman. It's a realization that hits me like a punch, leaving me breathless and reeling. I've always seen myself as straight, never questioned it, not once in all my 33 years. But now, there's this pull, this quiet ache that flares up every time she's near. It terrifies me, the way it upends everything I thought I knew about myself. Yet, at the same time, there's an exhilaration in it, a reckless kind of thrill that makes my pulse race even as I try to bury it deep. I can't stop thinking about one moment in particular, a few days ago, when she stopped by to return that cup of sugar she'd borrowed. We were in my kitchen, standing by the counter, and I was rinsing a spoon under the faucet. She reached for it at the same time I did, her fingers brushing against mine. It was nothing, just a fleeting touch, but it sent a jolt through me, sharp and electric, like a current I couldn't shake off. My heart slammed against my ribs, and I yanked my hand back too fast, nearly dropping the spoon in my haste. I mumbled something incoherent, my face burning, while she just smiled, unfazed, as if she hadn't felt a thing. But I felt it. I felt it everywhere, and I've been replaying that moment in my head ever since, wondering if I imagined the heat of it, the way it lingered on my skin long after she left. This isn't just about Alina, though. It's about me, about the life I've built with Mark, and how it's starting to feel like a house of cards, fragile and ready to collapse under the slightest pressure. I've been noticing the distance between us more than ever lately. Our conversations, when we have them, are transactional at best. Did you pay the electric bill? Can you grab milk on your way home? What time will you be back? There's no depth anymore, no warmth. I feel invisible to him, like I'm just part of the furniture in this perfectly ordered apartment of ours. I can't remember the last time he looked at me the way Alina does, with that kind of unguarded attention, like I'm someone worth seeing. And that scares me, because I've spent 7 years building a life with him, telling myself this is what love looks like: steady, predictable, safe. But now, I'm not so sure. Now I'm questioning everything, and I don't know how to stop. Alina, on the other hand, feels like a burst of color in a world that's been grayscale for too long. Her presence is a lifeline, something to cling to when the silence of my days threatens to swallow me whole. When she's around, I feel awake, alive in a way I haven't been in ages. But with that feeling comes a weight I can't shake, a gnawing sense of guilt that tugs at me every time I let my thoughts wander too far. Tonight, though, that weight feels heavier than ever. I'm sitting alone in my apartment, the city's endless hum a faint backdrop to the quiet that presses in around me. Mark texted earlier, his message short and predictable. Working late again, don't wait up. I didn't even reply, just let the phone sit there on the counter, its screen glowing for a moment before fading to black. The emptiness of the apartment seems to grow with each passing minute, the polished surfaces reflecting nothing but my own restless shadow. As I pace from the kitchen to the living room and back again, I try to distract myself, flipping through a magazine I've already read, but the words blur together, meaningless against the storm brewing in my mind. Then, without warning, the world shifts. The lights flicker once, twice, before everything plunges into darkness. A power outage, sudden and complete, wraps the building in an eerie stillness. The hum of the fridge dies, the faint buzz of electronics vanishes, and all I'm left with is the sound of my own breathing, shallow and quick. I stand frozen for a moment, disoriented, my eyes straining to adjust to the pitch black. The city outside still glitters through the window, a distant reminder of life beyond these walls. But inside, it's like I've been cut off from everything. My hands fumble along the counter, searching for the drawer where I keep the candles. I knock over a glass in my haste, wincing as it clatters to the floor, thankfully unbroken. Finally, my fingers close around a small box of matches and a couple of half-melted candles. But the silence is suffocating now, amplifying every creak of the building, every thud of my own heartbeat. I light a candle, its weak flame trembling as I hold it up, casting long, wavering shadows across the walls. It's not enough to push back the darkness, not really, and the restlessness in me only grows. I can't sit here alone with my thoughts, not tonight. My mind latches onto an idea, a flimsy excuse to escape this oppressive quiet. Alina. Maybe she has spare matches, or maybe she's as unsettled by the outage as I am. Maybe she needs help. I don't let myself overthink it. I grab the candle, shielding its fragile light with my hand, and step out into the hallway. The building feels like a different place in the dark, the sterile white walls now cloaked in shadow, the usual echoes replaced by a heavy, unnatural hush. The elevator's out, of course, so I take the stairs, climbing up to the 15th floor with slow, deliberate steps. My heart is pounding, and it's not just from the effort. It's nerves, anticipation, a tangled mess of emotions I can't quite name. Each step feels like a decision, like I'm moving towards something I can't turn back from. When I reach her door, I hesitate, the candle flickering in my unsteady grip. What am I even doing here? I could still go back, retreat to the safety of my own apartment, let this moment pass. But before I can talk myself out of it, I knock, the sound sharp against the silence. There's a pause, a long one, and for a second I think she's not home. Then the door creaks open, and there she is. Alina. Her apartment is a world apart from the darkness of the hallway, lit by a cluster of candles that bathe everything in a warm, golden glow. The light dances across her face, softening the edges, highlighting the curve of her cheekbones. She's wearing a loose, oversized sweater, the sleeves rolled up to her elbows, and her dark hair is slightly messy, falling in waves that frame her face. Her smile, when she sees me, is both inviting and vulnerable, like she's been waiting for someone to break through her own solitude. "Hey, Lara," she says, her voice soft, almost a whisper. "Come in." I step inside, the warmth of her space wrapping around me like a blanket. The air carries that familiar hint of her perfume, jasmine and honey, mingling with the faint, comforting scent of melting wax. I set my candle down on a small table near the door, its tiny flame joining the others, casting a soft, flickering light that seems to blur the edges of reality. Alina gestures toward a cozy corner of her living room, where a few cushions are scattered on the floor near a low table, more candles clustered there like little beacons. I sit, feeling the tension in my shoulders ease just a fraction, though my heart still races with something I can't quite name. She sits across from me, close enough that I can feel the warmth of her presence, and for a moment we just look at each other, the silence between us heavy but not uncomfortable. It's like the darkness outside has stripped away the usual barriers, leaving us raw and exposed in this small, glowing sanctuary. I'm not sure how it happens, or when the shift occurs, but I find my gaze drawn to her, really seeing her in a way I've tried to avoid for weeks. The way the candlelight catches in her dark eyes, making them shimmer with something unspoken. The gentle curve of her lips as she offers a small, tentative smile, like she's waiting for me to say something. Anything. My fingers fidget in my lap, restless, and before I can stop myself, I reach out, my hand trembling just slightly. As it moves toward her, I touch her shoulder first, the fabric of her sweater soft under my fingertips. And then, almost instinctively, my hand slides upward, my fingers brushing against the edge of her hair. It's softer than I imagined, silky strands slipping through my grasp, and the sensation sends a shiver down my spine. My breath catches in my throat, a sharp, audible hitch, and I see her eyes widen just a fraction, but she doesn't pull away. Instead, she leans in ever so slightly, her gaze locked on mine, and it's like the world narrows to just this moment, just the space between us. I don't think. I can't think. I lean forward, closing the distance, and then my lips are on hers. It's tentative at first, a hesitant press, but the warmth of her mouth against mine is like a spark igniting something I've kept buried for too long. Her lips are soft, yielding, and there's a faint taste of something sweet. Maybe the tea she was drinking before I arrived. My heart slams against my ribs, a wild, erratic rhythm, as a wave of heat rushes through me. She doesn't pull back, doesn't hesitate. Instead, she leans into the kiss, her hand finding my arm, her fingers curling gently around it as if to anchor herself. The contact sends a jolt through me, and the kiss deepens, becoming something more urgent, more desperate, like we've both been waiting for this without even knowing it. My hand moves from her hair to the back of her neck, pulling her closer, and I can feel the warmth of her skin, the faint pulse beneath my fingertips. A storm of emotions crashes over me, each one sharper than the last. There's desire, raw and consuming, a hunger I haven't felt in years, maybe ever. It's like every nerve in my body is awake, alive in a way I'd forgotten was possible. But beneath that, there's guilt. A cold, heavy weight that tugs at the edges of my mind. Mark's face flashes through my thoughts. His tired smile. The way he used to look at me when we were first. As I pull back from Alina, my breath uneven. The warmth of her touch still lingers on my lips, a phantom sensation that I can't shake. The candlelight flickers between us, casting shadows that dance across her face, and for a moment, I see something in her eyes, maybe uncertainty, maybe longing, that mirrors the chaos inside me. We don't speak, not right away. The silence feels heavier now, charged with what just happened, and I'm suddenly hyper-aware of every sound, every breath. I mumble something about needing to get back, my voice barely above a whisper, and she nods, her expression unreadable as she watches me stand. I grab my candle from the table near the door, its tiny flame trembling as much as I am, and step out into the dark hallway without looking back. The door closes softly behind me, a quiet click that feels like a full stop to a sentence I'm not ready to finish. Descending the stairs to my floor, my legs feel unsteady, like they might give out beneath me at any moment. Each step echoes in the empty stairwell, a hollow sound that matches the hollow feeling growing in my chest. The harsh fluorescent lights have come back on at some point during my time upstairs, and they buzz overhead now, casting a cold, clinical glow that feels like a spotlight on my guilt. Every shadow seems to judge me. Every flicker of light seems to expose what I've done. My mind replays the kiss over and over, the softness of Alina's lips, the heat of her breath, the way my heart raced with something I can't name. But alongside that memory comes the weight of betrayal, a sharp, jagged thing that cuts deeper with every step I take toward my apartment. When I finally reach my door, I fumble with the key, my hands still shaky from the whirlwind of emotions. The apartment is just as I left it, empty, silent, the power restored, but the air still heavy with the aftermath of the outage. Mark isn't home yet, and the absence of his presence feels both like a relief and a condemnation. I set the candle down on the counter, its flame snuffed out now, a thin wisp of smoke curling upward as if carrying away the last traces of that moment with Alina. I collapse onto the couch, my body sinking into the cushions, but there's no comfort here. My eyes drift to the shelf across the room, to the framed wedding photo of Mark and me. We're smiling in it, young and certain, our hands clasped tightly as if nothing could ever come between us. The memory of that day feels like a distant dream now, something that belongs to someone else I've cheated on my husband. Not just with someone else, but with a woman. The reality of it slams into me like a tidal wave, forcing me to question everything I thought I knew about myself. Who am I, if not the person I've always believed myself to be? How could I have crossed this line, shattered this trust, without even fully understanding why? A storm of emotions rages inside me, each one vying for dominance. There's shame. A deep, burning shame for betraying Mark, for breaking the vows I made to him all those years ago. I think of the life we've built, the quiet routines, the shared history, and I wonder how I could have thrown it all into jeopardy in a single, reckless moment. But then there's confusion, a dizzying swirl of questions about my feelings for Alina. What does it mean that I felt so alive with her, so seen, in a way I haven't felt with Mark in years? Was it just a fleeting escape from the monotony of my life? Or is there something deeper? Something I've been blind to until now? And beneath it all, there's a lingering ache, a yearning for the connection I felt with her. In that candle-lit room, it's a pull I can't ignore, no matter how much I try to bury it under layers of guilt and self-doubt. As I sit there, lost in the tangle of my thoughts, I hear it again. Alina's footsteps above me. The familiar tap-tap-tap filters through the ceiling, each one a reminder of the secret I carry, a secret that binds us together in ways words never could. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment if you enjoyed this story. This will help us create more engaging stories for you.